Companies pour absolute fortunes into polished branding, right? But the single most powerful factor that can turn a complete skeptic into a loyal buyer is the founder's personal struggle. Think about it. We're taught from day one to project this flawless, confident image. But what if that's all wrong? What if the real secret to breaking through a customer's defenses isn't about having a bigger budget, but about telling a raw, more honest story? And that leads us to the big question for this entire deep dive. There is actually a system, a specific, repeatable formula that uses vulnerability not as a weakness, but as the ultimate tool for connection. See, it's a structure built on a simple, timeless truth. We don't trust polished corporate claims. We trust shared human experiences. So today, we're going to break that formula down piece by piece. All right, here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off with the trust paradox and the corporate coldness crisis that made this whole approach necessary. Then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of the 4-part formula. After that, we'll explore the psychology of vulnerability to really understand why it works so well, before getting practical with putting it to work. And we'll wrap it all up by talking about the real goal here, selling a shared belief. So first, let's just set the stage here with what I call the corporate coldness crisis. For decades, we were all just hammered with this generic, soulless advertising. The perfect families with blindingly white teeth, these bold promises that just felt completely hollow. And the result? We all became deeply, profoundly skeptical. Today's consumer has the internet. They have endless choices, and they've started to demand something more, something real, a human voice they can actually trust. This demand forced a massive shift in how companies talk to us. The old way? It was all polished, impersonal, and based on making these big claims. We're the best. We're number one. But the new reality is human to human. It's vulnerable, it's relatable, and it's built entirely on story. And here's the radical insight. The story of why a product was created is infinitely more powerful than just a list of what that product can do. Now, the reason this shift works so well is because of this really powerful psychological thing called narrative transportation. You've totally felt this. It's that feeling you get when you're completely lost in a great book or a movie. Your guard is down, your cynical brain kind of switches off, and your emotional connection gets dialed way, way up. A well-told founder story isn't just marketing. It's a vehicle that gets you into this exact state. It lets a brand bypass all that skepticism and speak directly to the heart. Okay, section 2, the 4-part formula. So if narrative transportation is our destination, this formula is the engine that's going to get us there. And this isn't just some random, made-up story. It's a very specific 4-part structure that's engineered to systematically build trust with an audience, and fast. So here they are, the 4 steps. It all starts with the origin or the crisis, the beginning of the journey, usually at the lowest point. Then comes the transformation or solution. That's the aha moment, the breakthrough. From there, it gets bigger, into a new mission, a goal that's about more than just the founder. And finally, it wraps up with an invitation asking you, the customer, to join that mission. Each step has a very specific job to do. Now, the entire thing hinges on the incredible power of this first step. The origin and crisis part, this is what we call the vulnerability anchor. This is where the founder has to be willing to share the real struggle, the personal conflict, the absolute low point. This isn't about bragging. It's about sharing a genuine moment of weakness. And this, I promise you, is the single most important trust trigger in the whole formula. It's the exact moment the audience stops seeing a company and starts seeing a person. So let's just recap how these pieces fit together so perfectly. The crisis, that creates instant empathy. The transformation then shows the product not just as some thing for sale, but as this hard-won solution that came from a real struggle. The mission takes it from a me problem to a we goal, and then the invitation brilliantly turns a passive customer into an active participant in a movement. It's genius, really. All right, section 3, the psychology of vulnerability. So now we have the structure. Let's look under the hood and really dig into the deep-seated human behaviors that explain why this formula is so darn effective at getting past our skepticism and connecting with us. The whole thing is built on what we can call the vulnerability principle. And it is so counterintuitive, isn't it? I mean, we're taught that showing weakness makes us look bad. But when it comes to building trust, the complete opposite is true. Sharing our flaws, our past struggles, it's a massive signal of authenticity. It tells people, hey, I'm not hiding anything, I'm real. And in a world that is just saturated with fake, filtered perfection, that raw honesty is the fastest way to earn instant trust. It's really not about being perfect, it's about being real. When you share a past struggle, you're communicating this quiet confidence and honesty that no polished "we're the best" claim could ever match. It's an invitation to connect that is almost impossible for a skeptical audience to say no to, because it just feels so genuine. And there's another powerful psychological force at work here too: loss aversion. Basically, as humans, we are all wired to feel the pain of a loss about twice as strongly as the pleasure of an equal gain. We hate losing more than we love winning. So when a founder shares their story of struggle, the pain, the frustration, you feel a little bit of that pain too. And that activates your own deep-seated desire to avoid that same experience, which makes the founder's solution feel not just kind of helpful, but urgent, absolutely necessary for your own life. So now we get the theory, we get the psychology. Section 4 is all about putting it to work. Let's move from the why to the how and look at a practical, actionable framework you can use to master this formula yourself.
Okay, so there are 3 core principles to put this into practice effectively. First, you've got to anchor in the crisis. Second, you have to cast the customer as the hero. And third, you need to centralize the narrative so it's impossible to miss. Let's break down what each of those really means.
Okay, here are the key actions. First, anchor in the crisis. Do not start with the solution. You have to start the story at the absolute lowest point to create that empathy hook. Next, and this is so important, you have to cast the customer as the hero. The founder already went on their journey. The story needs to pivot to frame the product as the tool, the magic sword, right? For the customer's victory. The brand is the wise guide, not the hero. And finally, centralize the narrative. This story can't be buried on some About Us page nobody reads. It needs to be right there on your homepage, in your first email, at every key moment to build that trust before you ever ask for a dime. And that brings us to our 5th and final section, selling a shared belief. We've talked about tactics and psychology and structure, but what is this all really about? Well, it's about taking your brand from being just another transaction to something way more meaningful. You see, the quickest, most effective path to a sale isn't some clever marketing funnel. It is, and it has always been, authentic human connection. This formula isn't some trick. It's just the simple logic of how we connect, applied to the timeless power of a shared experience. It works because it dismantles the biggest barrier to any sale, that feeling of corporate coldness. So when you can turn a sales pitch into a shared mission, you're not pushing people through a bunch of steps anymore. The best marketing doesn't need to push, it pulls. It creates this kind of gravitational force, just drawing people toward the value you offer, because it's rooted in something real and human and relatable. And that is the ultimate goal. The founder's story formula works because in the end, it doesn't just sell a product. It sells a shared belief, a belief that a problem can be solved, a belief that a struggle can be overcome. And when your audience buys into that belief, they don't just become customers, they become advocates.